Hey everybody, welcome back to my channel. Today is Sunday and we are going to do a little bit of a Sunday refresh. July and August have just been lots of vacationing and then back to school, and I have just really not kept very much of a schedule with posting. You probably noticed. So I'm working to kind of get a little bit better with that. So I can't really call this an August reset because we are most of the way through August at this point. But what I'm going to do is just call this an August refresh and kind of like a Sunday reset. And so I'm just going to take you along with me. We just got back from church and I'm going to do a couple things this afternoon before we head out to be with our church family again. So I'm going to start out by showing you what I wore to church today. All right, the kids have become quite fond of playing in here, so just ignore the toys down here. But this was my outfit for today, but it's just that navy gingham dress that I got from that Thread Up haul. So I'm wearing that with my sandals that I have been wearing a lot, and I just curled my hair and I have some simple gold earrings. Just kind of easy outfit today. So I'm just gonna be honest, my dress stinks. It's one of those things where it's not really me so much, it's like there's odor in the dress and I just can't stand it. So I'm gonna take it off and I'm going to spray some stuff on it to try to spot treat it. And I'm going to change into fresh clothes. So sometimes your clothes just stink and this dress doesn't smell very good. So I'm gonna change clothes and then we're gonna have lunch. And then this evening we have a gathering with our church family and I'm gonna be making a couple of things for that. So I'll take you along with that and I'm gonna talk to you about some August things. So it's gonna be a good afternoon. Whew, okay, that feels much better. I feel like I can breathe, feel like my arms can breathe a little bit. So we're gonna eat some lunch and then I'll just take you with me for the afternoon. All right, for lunch today, we are having breakfast leftovers. So I had some canned biscuits. I don't normally buy these, but every once in a while. I topped one with some cheddar cheese and one with some peanut butter and honey. And then I had a maple sausage and I just spent some time looking at a magazine before I got to work. So I don't know about you, but whenever I'm in the kitchen, I like to start with a clean surface if at all possible. Sometimes it doesn't happen. Sometimes we are pushed for time, but it feels good if I can start with a clean slate. So lately our Keurig has sort of been acting up and I think it's because it needs to be descaled. It has been coming out not just where the coffee is supposed to drip out, but sort of around where the reusable pod is. So I know that descaling is in my future, but right now I'm just dealing with the mess. This mess on the end of the island is just going to have to wait for another day. It seems like odds and ends just kind of like to pile up there from time to time. So yes, addressing that pile will be on the list, but not today. So I'll tell you about this in a little bit, but today we are headed to an event with our church in the evening. So I am making a couple of different things. The first thing I'm going to make is a pitcher of sweet tea. So if you are from the South, you are familiar with this, but if you're not, sweet tea is just tea that's brewed and it has a good bit of sugar in it, which is why I don't really keep it in my house very much. But for a special occasion or something like that, I will make a pitcher of tea. So the method that I use is my mother-in-law's method. You start out with 3 bags of tea. I am using black tea and it is decaf. Since this is in the evening, I want to make sure that this will not keep anybody awake, and especially there's going to be kids there too. So you actually go in with, I did say, a good bit of sugar. It is 1.5 cups of sugar. So you add this to your pitcher and then you add your hot water and you let this steep for a few minutes. And then you'll come back later and pull those tea bags out and fill up the rest of the way with cold water. I remember when I was a child, we took a vacation to West Virginia, and then we went on up north and we went to the Amish country, and it was my first time ever being in this part of the country, and I think we ate somewhere in Ohio, and the waitress came around and ordered our drinks, and I said, I'll have sweet tea, and she said, we don't have that, and I just remember thinking how absurd it was that they didn't have sweet tea because it's so common in the South. So while I'm letting the tea steep, I am putting a new set of sheets in the washing machine. We really needed a new set, so I'm giving these a try and I want to get them all clean first. This laundry closet is right off of our kitchen And it really is a good little space. It's very small, but it suits our needs and it works out really well. I did have a question and I wanted to ask you guys. I was reading the tag because I wanted to care for these properly, and it recommends to wash them in cold water, but I always wash my sheets on hot. What do you guys do? All right, so as I was making the tea, I saw that there were lots of little loose tea leaves around that had sort of seeped out of the bag, and that's not supposed to happen. Maybe it's because I dropped them in the pitcher, who knows. So I don't actually have a fine mesh strainer, but I do have a yogurt strainer, so that's what I used, and I went ahead and did that before I added the cold water so I wouldn't have to do as much straining. It worked out fine. I got rid of all of those little pieces, and now I'm just going to let that cool in the fridge. And now we can move on to our next phase of cooking. I love having the kids cook with me in the kitchen, but a lot of times when I'm making multiple things like this, I just like to put a podcast or something in my ear, and this is a time for me to just decompress. I like to get in the zone and do one thing at a time and clean up as I go and just try to do a good job. So I'm making guacamole, which if you've watched my channel, you've probably seen me make this before, maybe many times before. I've been making guacamole for years. A friend from church gave me her recipe, and I have been making it ever since. So as we are nearing these last few months of summer, it's really special to me, and I really cherish making guacamole because it's one of those things sort of like chocolate chip pound cake at Christmas or garlic cheddar biscuits at Thanksgiving. I might make those things throughout the year, but I really associate them with those holidays and with that time of year. And guacamole is really the same way. I may make it throughout the year, but mostly I make it in summer, and it really says summer to me. So at this phase in the game, I decided to let the kids step in and help with scooping out the avocados and mixing in the toppings. I did actually end up realizing that I was a little heavy on my toppings. I had a lot of onions and quite a few tomatoes as well. So I went back and mashed up 2 more avocados, maybe one, I can't remember, 1 or 2 more avocados, and I added those to the mix. And of course, again, if you've watched my channel, I love to go ahead and freeze the rest of that onion, especially if you know a recipe that you're going to use it for. So here I have it in a container with some jalapeno because I know I'm going to use that for corn salsa. So it's there, it's in the freezer, and I know I'm not going to waste it, and that makes me very happy. So usually when I'm doing something like this, in this bowl where it's been my mixing bowl and it's going to be my serving bowl, I just wipe out that edge. Again, I love these Pyrex glass dishes. Anything like this that could be your mixing bowl and your serving bowl. I just love the fact that you can kind of kill 2 birds with 1 stone. You can just use that same dish for everything. It's one less thing that I have to wash. All right, now that the counter is clear again, I'm going to do a little mise en place for my rice. I wanted to wait until a little bit closer to time to make it, but I went ahead and just set out my ingredients so they'd be ready to go. It really only takes 3 ingredients, and it's very easy to make, and we love rice. My laundry is now getting ready to do the rinse cycle, and this is when I always add a 1/4 cup or a 1/2 cup of vinegar. This is really a helpful part of our laundry routine. It helps with eliminating odors, and it helps to make our laundry softer. So I wanted to walk you through the process of how I make my rice. Most of the time I use jasmine rice. We find that we really like the taste and the texture of it. So I have a rice cooker that was actually a yard sale find, and when I found it, it was in pretty poor shape. But I put some really hard elbow grease in, I cleaned it up, and it works wonderfully. So I always rinse my rice until the water comes clear. So I'll do this 2 or 3 times, and then I will just pour the water out. You could do this in a fine mesh strainer or in a colander, but again, I like to conserve the dishes that I'm using. So I do a 1-to-1 ratio. So for here, I was doing 3 cups of rice, so 3 cups of water. Now, typically, if I'm doing 2 cups of rice, I will do a tablespoon of coconut oil. Because this is a larger amount, I added a little bit more coconut oil. So I am just adding a little bit of extra salt here. This is, I believe this was a half teaspoon. And so I'm actually adding 3 of those to make a total of 1.5 teaspoons for my 3 cups of rice. The warm light never comes on this rice cooker, but it still works and functions just fine, and we love it. Okay, so I have stepped outside and I am sitting in the patio area, which you guys really are going to see soon, I promise. But I just got a couple of cushions out of the deck box, and I'm going to sit here and I'm going to adjust our meal plan. I kind of mentioned that things have kind of not been as scheduled in July and August. That's kind of just been across the board. I have not meal planned. I have not scheduled my YouTube videos. Things have just kind of happened as they've happened, when they've happened, and I wanted to get back on meal planning just because it helps all the way across the board for me. I know everybody's different. So for me personally, when I meal plan, it helps with my grocery shopping. It helps with my budgeting. It helps me to not get distracted in the store, and then it helps me to choose. All right, sorry, the air conditioning unit cut on, so I had to go and shut that off. But yeah, meal planning for me just helps all the way around. It helps with my groceries. It helps me to not get distracted in the store. And then it helps me to really use the things that we have. And then I know in the back of my head, if I'm choosing eating out, okay, then those ingredients are going to get pushed to another day. And I want to try to make sure that I don't waste my ingredients, that they don't go out of date, or that my produce doesn't go bad. So anyway, I just do better with a plan, and then if things change, and you'll see they did, then I can adjust. I can pivot, and that's fine. So I'm going to show you what changed this past week, and then I'm going to figure out how I'm going to add that in for this week. So this is my meal planner. I've mentioned this before. I get this at Aldi, and it's only available seasonally, so it's likely not available in your store. I know it's not available in mine, but it's usually available in those first few months of the year, like January through March. So this was the meal plan for this past week. So Monday we did make chicken legs with green beans, and I think I did some roasted potatoes with that, but I just did chicken legs in the crock pot with barbecue sauce. No, that's wrong. So this actually is sort of accurate. It says green beans and chicken legs. I actually used the chicken legs to make chicken and rice soup. So I did use that protein. I just used it in a different way. Tuesday, I did what was written. I did crock pot chicken legs. I did it just with like barbecue sauce and some seasonings. I did green beans, and then I did some oven roasted potatoes. Now this is where things started to change. Andy has been asking for a long time to get some salmon at Aldi. They have like fresh salmon, you know, that's not frozen. So she always wants to poke the plastic packaging, and she thinks that it feels really cool, and she's never really eaten it. So I did buy 2 of the planks of salmon, and instead of doing breakfast for dinner, it was like a honey soy salmon, and I did that with some rice and a salad that was bad because my greens were going bad. But anyway, it was kind of like I hadn't planned to do a vegetable, so I was scrambling, and I was like, maybe I can use this salad mix, and it was too far gone. We had to throw it away. But anyway, we had salmon and rice here, and then we had leftovers here. So because we didn't do breakfast for dinner here, we actually did it here. And so that meant this meal didn't get made. And then on this day, we actually still had some additional leftovers, and I thought, you know what, I'm going to use those. So that means that the sheet pan fajitas with fresh corn salsa, that did not get made. And the skillet pork chops with mashed potatoes and green beans, that did not get made. If you're wondering why I have green beans so much, I have some green beans that I canned last summer, and they're still fine, but I'm just trying to work through them. So that's why the vegetable of choice here is green beans. Okay, so let's look at this week. All right, so tonight we are having taco night with church, and that's what the jasmine rice and guacamole is for. I didn't have anything written on Monday, and I actually didn't realize that. Oh, I'll just plug in one of these other ones there. Tuesday we are having crock pot barbecue, and see, oh, this actually works out just fine. I actually did not buy the pork for this. I got a sweat bee around me. I actually did not buy the pork for this, so that actually works out. So, okay, there we go. That's where my 2 meals will go. Sheet pan nachos is on Wednesday. That'll be with ground beef. Thursday will be leftovers. And then Friday, we're going to do Greek turkey burgers with naan and a salad and tzatziki sauce. And then Saturday, we're going to do some sort of grilling with chicken breast. Okay, so I just moved the sheet pan fajitas to here, and I put the pork chops here. So meals for the week are done. All right, so as far as my typical monthly reset stuff, there's really not a whole lot to talk about. I have not read anything because we've done starting back to school, and I've just been focusing on getting the kids' schoolwork done. There's lots of reading with our curriculum with both kids, and then things we're supposed to do together as a family. So as far as my reading for personal enjoyment, there has been none because I've been focusing on getting started with all of this. And then kind of the same thing with podcasts, actually. I've not really been listening to any new podcasts. Every now and then I'll catch an episode of one of the ones that I normally listen to, but nothing really, groundbreaking that I feel needs to be shared. So we did get everybody started back to the school rhythm. So I've shared before, but we do a university model kind of hybrid homeschool. So a couple of days a week we are here, and a couple of days a week we gather with other homeschoolers, and it is really a fun experience. So this year is the first year that I'm actually on staff at school. So one of the days I'm there and one of the days I'm not. But the day that I'm there, I'm helping in the preschool, and then I am teaching music to various classes, which, if you don't know this about me, I am a music teacher. I teach private music lessons, so I teach guitar and banjo and mandolin. So it's really fun to be able to be there with my kids and see them in that capacity. And we haven't reached the age yet where they're too cool. Like my son is 7, and he told me that he's excited that I'm a teacher, and he's excited to see me throughout the day. So it's just really sweet, and I recognize how special this time is, and we may reach a time where mom's not quite as cool, but right now he's still excited that I'm there, so that's really fun. So the guacamole is made, the rice is cooking right now, and the sheets are almost dry in the dryer. I don't know if they're going to be super great quality, but I just needed a new set of sheets, so we'll see how they turn out. One thing that I did want to mention, I'm still super loving my zinnias, and I mentioned that in my July reset. Over on Instagram, it's the same as my YouTube, it's Yard Sale Squad. I am just kind of sharing periodically little things about the flowers because I'm really enjoying that right now. And I have named 2 of them, and I am giving kind of a daily update in my Instagram stories of their growth and their progress. So if that would be fun for you or for your kids to keep up with, you can go to Yard Sale Squad on Instagram and you can follow along with the progress of those 2 flowers. And then the other thing that I did want to mention, and I may have talked about this in a previous reset video and I can't remember, but a couple of months ago, it was probably at the start of summer, maybe in May, I recognized we had one weekend that was really, really busy. And it was one of those things that we couldn't really help. Multiple things fell on the same weekend. But I remember talking to Brandon, and I said, if at all possible, I think we need to try to make it where either Friday or Saturday we are staying home in the evening. Because Sunday for us is... it's a good day and it's a fun day, but it's not really restful. This afternoon has been restful, and usually we get some rest in the afternoon, but we have church in the morning and we have church in the evening, so it's not a stay home kind of day. So I remember after that particularly draining weekend, I had told Brandon I thought we needed to shoot for the rhythm of either trying to stay home on Friday or Saturday. So if on Friday we are at a community event or we're out with friends or whatever the thing is, then Saturday I think we need to cook and stay at home, and then vice versa. If Friday we are at home, then Saturday, let's go out and let's do something fun. It just so happens that Friday, Brandon did something with a friend, but the kids and I ended up staying home. And then yesterday, the kids and I did something during the day while Brandon was at work, and then we were all home yesterday evening. So actually, both Friday and Saturday, we were at home during the evening, and that ended up being just fine. But as we start back school, many of us. I just wanted to share this rhythm with you because it might be something that is helpful for you and your family. I just found that it was so nice to kind of naturally say, okay, if we're home one, let's go out the other. If we're out another, let's stay home. It actually does not feel that bad out here right now in the shade. Thankfully, what we're doing this evening, we started doing this last year. I think this is maybe our 3rd year doing this. So one of our families at church, in the month of August, we've started getting together on Sunday nights at their house, and we will eat and the kids will play, and then we will kind of talk about something biblically related, kind of do a little study. And it is just such a fun time. It's nice to have a different scenery, a different setting, but it is outside. But luckily it's in the shade mainly, so it's really not too bad. The kids are stomping around in the house. I can hear them. But it's not too bad, so hopefully it will not be that warm. It's actually pretty pleasant out here on the patio right now. But we are getting close to the time that we need to go, so I'm going to go in and kind of get everybody wearing what they're going to wear and check on the rice and get the guacamole out and get the sheets out and put those on the bed, and then we will head to our gathering. You may not be able to see, but there were some deer in the woods right as I was filming. Listen closely and you may be able to hear them warn each other to run. So we ended up hanging out with our church family, and by the time we got home, it was dark, and I really had wanted to show you guys around my zinnia patch. So this is the next morning. I went out here and I wanted to work on my flowers a little bit. So I am still learning in this area, still growing, and I'm learning the difference in pinching them and deadheading them. So I went through and I was just looking at how to create healthier plants. One natural way that you can do this is just by trimming flowers, cutting flowers for displays in your home. So that was one thing that I did this morning, was just go along, and you can see here I'm doing a trick that I learned on an Instagram reel, and that is to test if they are a solid stem or if they are wiggly. If your stem wiggles, that means that it's not ready yet. But if it's pretty sturdy, then that means that it's ready. Even that yellow one is a little borderline. But some of these other ones that have thicker stems that I'm pulling, they are strong and they are ready to stand up in a vase. I have a huge collection of white pitchers. I really love them. So I'm just choosing to put the flowers in here. Flowers like this sometimes benefit from a more narrow vessel, so you will see that on the back end these look a little sparse, but I ended up putting them on my table anyway, and I am still enjoying this arrangement. Just like you and I, this display has its better angles and then its angles where it doesn't look as pleasing to the eye, but it is beautiful nonetheless. As always, thank you guys for tagging along for a day in my life. I'm happy you're here, and I will be talking to you next time.